Americans who are flying into Paris, and if they choose to go straight to Disneyland Paris,
Yes.
especially if they happen to be traveling with kids and they're worried about car seats and that sort of thing, what are their options to get to Disney? Is there sort of like a Magical Express shuttle bus equivalent, or do they
So
have to take taxis?
what we did, and so I can't really speak to all the, I know that we looked at several different options and, you could get a taxi if you wanted to. Um, I know there's kind of, you could take their regional metro system to get there. But what we actually did was we took the high speed rail. And so this is going to be the most expensive option. So it's the TGV. It goes straight from, we flew into Charles de Gaulle Airport, and you buy your ticket at the airport. I forget exactly how much it costs. I want to say it was like $30 for each of us. So it's not cheap. It's not the cheapest thing in the world. I mean, relatively. I mean,
Right.
I'm sure a cab is pretty, equally expensive, um, but it was pretty incredible. I mean, they have a station right at Disney Village.
Mhm.
And so we were there in 15 minutes from the airport, taking the high speed rail. We were there in about 15 minutes. You get off there, obviously the thing to keep in mind is you're going to be carting your own luggage around here or whatever. But if you're traveling as lightly as you can with a family or with whatever,
Right.
and you can manage your own luggage, then yeah, we just took our luggage on. They have little spots for you to throw it. We took a seat, just a seat wherever we wanted to sit. Then when we got there, we got off, we took the escalator up. And when you get up there, if you're staying at one of the resorts, I mean, any of them, even the neighborhood resorts, it's going to spit you out right where all the trams are and where all
Okay.
the buses are to take you to your hotel. So we went right up there. We stayed at the Radisson Blu that first night. And so we found our little shuttle for the Radisson. They picked us right up, took us to our hotel. Really couldn't have been much easier. So it's definitely, it was definitely pretty easy. Again, we didn't have a kid at the time, and I'm sure that complicates the equation a little bit. But I still think that would probably be our choice for getting to the resort.
Okay. Yeah. And it sounds like 2 years from now, that's going to be the main choice for Orlando too, right? They're
Yeah.
doing away with Magical Express, and a year later there should be that high speed rail going from the airport to Disney Springs. The difference being is you can't walk to all the resorts from Disney Springs, so it's going to be a little
Yes,
bit
I have
complicated.
I have lots of opinions on this, but I'll keep them to
Maybe
myself for the
another
time.
show. Yeah,
Yes.
I'm not thrilled about this choice, but
No.
how about all the signage and the cast members? Do they generally speak fluent English for American
Yeah.
travelers? And how about the signs in the park or around the property?
Yeah, I mean, everything, yes, everything was, obviously all the cast members, at least everyone that we encountered spoke English pretty well,
Okay.
from our waiters to the hotel check-in staff, everything like that. The signage, as much as I can recall, yes, it was pretty easy to see. I'd have to go back and look at my pictures in terms of the signage for the attractions and stuff, but we had you get a guide map that's in English, the same as they've got many different languages there in terms of the guide maps, and so
Okay.
and you can pretty much you're I would say it's very easy for an American to travel around there, because you're also just going to know, like, what Pirates looks like, and so if you've got the guide map to get there, even if you don't have the guide map to get you there, when you see the Pirates building or Space Mountain or whatever, you go, I know what that is. That's Space
So
Mountain.
we talked about some of the differences in these bigger rides. Are there rides that are unique to this park that you can't see anywhere else, or at least not in the US?
They have they have a Ratatouille section of the park that, obviously will now be coming to Epcot. So at the time, that was unique to that park, was the Ratatouille attraction, but that will obviously be coming to Florida in the very near future. And then they actually had the first version of Toy Story Land, the first kind of iteration of it, and um, so you have rides that are, actually not unique to that park, but they're unique from the American parks,
Okay.
and that you've got an RC racer ride, and you have, a little Slinky Dog kind of caterpillar style ride, a little flat ride.
Hmm.
Um, none of them are too exciting or anything, but again, that would be different if you've only been to the American parks as your first international trip. Those would be something that you could experience anywhere in the states.
That brings me to one of my listener questions that I gathered in preparation for this conversation, which is it worth it? Is it worth flying to Paris simply to go to Disneyland Paris?
That's a great question. And I think if you're a Disney fan, so I think I would hesitate to recommend that someone just go there to go to the park. Again, because Paris is such a wonderful city, there's so many great things to see, and because I think it's so easy to make this a part of a Paris trip. So I'd say if Paris is a place that you want to go and visit, I do think it's worth making it stop for a few days,
Hmm.
because it is so easy. I mean, I'd recommend the way that we did it, which was we flew into Paris, we took the TGV straight into the resort, we checked in, we stayed there for 3 nights, I believe.
Three
Um,
nights. Okay.
yeah, and I thought that was more than enough time to see everything there. And I mean, I would say you could probably even do it for 2 nights, depending on what your schedule was and what I really think that if you got 2 good full park days, you'd be in pretty great shape,
Hmm.
for having kind of explored the parks and the resort. And then we hopped on I think we took like the regional metro at that point into our hotel in Paris. I think we stayed another it was either 4 or 5 nights, and we bought like a city pass or a museum pass is what they call it there, that you basically pay a flat fee that gives you access to a whole bunch of museums. And so we went to all these different museums and we ate a ton of great food and explored the city. And I think it was just a wonderful pairing, those two things, especially if you're a Disney fan. So I think that would be my advice for somebody who's thinking about it.
Is one of the things that surprised me most about your chapters about Disneyland Paris is you said the food was disappointing.
Yes, it was pretty
So
disappointing.
let's talk a
Yes.
little bit about the food, but then perhaps what you recommend couples do to build a little romance into the trip.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. So the food was, as you said, very disappointing is a great way to describe it. I would say our meals kind of ranged on the scale from pretty bad to mediocre.
Mm.
And again, this is one of the great food cities of the world. For the rest of the week, we just ate some of the best meals. We had the best brunch I've ever had in my life at this little cafe behind our hotel that we just found, and I have
Mhm.
no idea what the name of it is. Couldn't even tell you where it is today. We were looking for a place and said, let's go to this place right behind us, and it was an extraordinary meal, fresh baked goods, fresh squeezed juice. It's just this
Yeah.
really amazing meal. But yeah, I mean, we ate at Captain Jack's, which is the Blue Bayou equivalent of. So it's right there
Hmm.
on the kind of
The
shores of
Pirates ride.
Pirates. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, in terms of this kind of blends with the romantic thing,
Hmm.
it is actually a really romantic setting. It's a wonderful setting. Really, really loved the theming of it, but our food was just dreadful, and that was our first meal, and we thought, oh no, like we're in for some trouble. Food, we ate at Remy's. It's called like Bistro Chez Remy, which is in Disney Studios Park, and again, the theming is very cute there. That's in the Ratatouille area of the park, and the idea is that you're eating at Remy's restaurant and you're the size of a rat, and so all of the decor in the restaurant is kind of repurposed, like Christmas lights and cocktail umbrellas and stuff. It's
Hmm.
just really fun theming. But it's like we got steak frites, and I mean, it was a pretty overcooked steak, and the fries were
Mm.
fine. um,
Oh.
and then we ate at Waltz, which I say was the best meal we probably had, and that's actually on Main Street in Disneyland. And modeled after kind of a Club 33.
Oh.
Each of the rooms is themed to a land in the park, and so we got a
Hmm.
we got a window seat right on Main Street, so we could sit there and look out the window and watch all the people coming and going down Main Street. So that was very cool. And I would say the food was fine. It was fine, but it
Okay.
wasn't. It
But
was
not great.
expensive. It was pretty
Really.
expensive, because that was actually the one meal that wasn't included with our. We just decided to go there as an extra meal,
Okay.
and it was a little pricey.
In the
So
conversation, what would you say are the main pros and cons of visiting Disneyland Paris?
big pro that I've kind of highlighted, in our discussions before is that I think it's a really easy, compact resort to tour,
Mhm.
and for people, especially people that are used to going to Walt Disney World and the kind of marathon and that can be, and the planning kind of over the how you can be overwhelmed with the planning of all the moving pieces and all the stuff. I would say that Disneyland Paris as a resort was a breath of fresh air in terms of, you know, for the most part, any of the resorts you pick, regardless of your budget, you're going to be able to get around very easily. You're going to be able to walk if you want to, and if you're able, you can hop back and forth between those parks. Um, within less than a minute, pretty much. If you're used to, if you're familiar with Disneyland and kind of that hop between Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, it's very similar, if not even closer. And if you if you have a multi-day ticket, park hopping is not a thing. You get it for free. You can hop back and forth as much as you'd like. So I would say that's a very attractive thing, of is kind of the ease of touring. Again, I think you can get some really compelling prices on packages, which really, again, kind of helps make this an easy sell for things. From a theming perspective, I think they have some of the best versions of these rides in the world, right? So, like I said, Big Thunder Mountain, I think, is the best version. Their Pirates, I honestly think, is one of the best pirates in the
Hmm.
world. Um, so the castle, obviously, I think, is one of the best castles in the world. You know, even though there might be some shortcomings in terms of the maintenance and things like that, I think if you're a huge Disney fan, you're gonna find it's gonna be exciting to do those kinds of things, to do those versions of these rides that I think will be very kind of impressive to most people. And so, in terms of the cons, it would be the food being a little disappointing, the upkeep being a little disappointing, and even, I would say, the the cleanliness in terms of, so like, just as a kind of anecdote, every time we'd come back to our hotel, we had to walk up this kind of large staircase to get back up to the lobby to the Newport Bay. And you walk up these kind of, they're white stairs. They have carpet kind of running up the middle, but they have white on the sides. And every single time we'd walk in, I'd notice that there were all these dust bunnies
Oh no.
on the stairs, on the stairs. And it was like kind of a game of like, how long is it going to take for these dust bunnies to be cleaned up or whatever. And I don't really care. It's not a huge deal. I understand there's
It's
thousands of
just not
people.
something you see.
It's just not something you're used to, right?
Yeah, at Disney
Um,
World, right.
so it's just a little different. But having said all of that, I do think there's enough pros to make it worthwhile for a Disney fan.